Hello, Infinite Masters. This is Richard Kuo. I'll be your host on for today's episode of the Infinite Mastery Podcast, where every single week we bring you a high-performing, world-class leader or expert to help you master your self-esteem and master your life. This week we have Josh Drean on. He is a youth motivational speaker who has spoken to over 250,000 students around the United States and probably some other countries. On top of that, I just want to say that it's really hard to give Josh a proper intro because he's such an incredible person who not only speaks and really lives life with joy and service to other people, but in my opinion, he's one of the coolest people that I've met. He does a lot of random acts of kindness, such as just buying homeless people shoes and clothing, just because that's just the person that he is. He also runs a really awesome vlog, in my opinion, that is very close to Casey Neistat. If you don't know who he is a famous vlogger on YouTube, and he is just an all-incredible human being who is totally in service and a really, really cool guy to hang out with. In today's podcast, Josh talks about his challenges being the class clown growing up and how that affected his self-esteem and how he eventually led onto living the life of essentially his dreams, raising a family and all that good stuff. So without further ado, here's Josh Drean. Fill us in, tell us a little bit about where you're from, what your family was like, and what was your neighborhood like growing up.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Richard.
Yeah.
Growing up was kind of an interesting experience for me. I grew up in a place called Layton, Utah. I'm from Utah, and it is the hub for Mormons. I am affectionately a Mormon, or member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, if you will. So the community that I grew up in, a very tight-knit group. I knew most of my neighbors. They knew us. And we'd go to church every Sunday together. It was kind of like the typical 90s kid, you know. I was outside on my skateboarder playing street hockey, riding my bike. We didn't have more than like a tape player. So a lot of music and just a lot of fun, a lot of outdoorsy stuff. I was a snowboarder and had a lot of friends that were snowboarders. So that's what we did. We snowboarded every weekend during the winter and would go up after school, and life was good, man. It was a cool neighborhood. It was kind of sandwiched in this little valley. So it was a quiet little town. There was no like grocery store. There was one gas station, and yeah, it was sheltered. We can call it sheltered. I was sheltered.
Nice. So when you were growing up as a kid, sounds like fun. I think I would have wanted to live there to some extent. What did you have any challenges growing up?
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting thing growing up. I am the second oldest of 7 kids in my family, so there's 9 in total. Mom and dad, big Mormon family, if you will, and I was the oldest son, so the older brother, and I felt like there was a lot of pressure with that because I had to be the example. I had to go first in everything, try new things, and I guess be an example for my brothers and sisters. And it was challenging at times, especially since there's kind of this mentality in my family of being perfect. Our family was pretty well known in the community. Most of us did like leadership in high school. And so we were well known. And with that came this stigma that you had to be perfect and you can't mess up. So I think a huge challenge for me was trying to find the balance between authentic Josh, who I am, and perfect Josh, who I was trying to be.
How did that how did that shape you to who you were as a kid and who you are today?
Yeah, I was always trying to be the hero of my story. Every time I watched a movie or every time I saw some sort of TV show, I was like, whoever's the hero in that story, I want to be that guy because they're perfect and they're working for the good. And so I would attack my relationships that way, where I wanted people to see me as the hero, as the good guy. So I was always on the edge of trying to be the best and trying to go beyond who I am and my weaknesses and at least pretend that I was the best. And I was involved in soccer. I was in the band. I was involved in leadership. I was a wrestler, and it really started to take a toll on me, to be honest, because you can only fake perfection so long.
Yeah. So let's see. Who would you say you were comparing yourself to?
Mostly it was the kids around me who were awesome at everything. Uh, I definitely believe that there are kids who are born with gifts and abilities. And I kind of viewed myself as the one who was born with, like, I got abilities in a lot of different things, but it was all really, I worked really hard for it. I was never like naturally talented in
Mm.
anything. And so I'd see these kids with natural talent, and it just like became a competition for me. It's like, yeah, you're really good at this and you can dominate this thing, but I'm going to work hard to dominate it. And so we're going to compete on that level. You're good at it naturally. I'm going to work hard to make it happen. Uh, yeah, it was kind of an interesting thing.
Hmm. So I'm curious if we were to look back at high school specifically. I think high school is a period in our lives where a lot happens emotionally, mentally, like all that kind of stuff. What would you say was your biggest challenge then?
In high school, there were a lot of challenges in high school. A big problem that I had growing up was that I was the class clown. And that's because I had zero self-worth in who I was as a person. I really didn't think I was good at anything. I didn't see any value in who I was. I wasn't really smart. I wasn't super good at sports. I didn't have that many talents. And so I had like zero self-worth. And the only way that I could feel good about myself was making other people laugh. And that just kind of promulgated the cycle, because I would make people laugh, but they were laughing at me, not with me. They were laughing at the stupid stuff that I did. And then they realized, oh, Josh is going to do whatever I tell him to do because he's going to get a laugh. And so I would have popular kids come up to me and they would like tell me to do things at recess, like go fight that kid or go trip that person or moon Mrs. Hibbert, which was like just a lot of things that they would tell me to do. And they knew that I would do it because I was the weak one. I was the unconfident one. And I felt like it would build my self-esteem if I actually did it for the popular kids.
Yeah.
And then I got known as the class clown. The teachers didn't have a lot of respect for me. And it really like led me to believe that I'm like not capable of standing up for who I am. And I have to do what other people tell me to do.
So as you're being the class clown, did you feel, were you conscious of the low self-esteem that you had? Maybe not exactly in those words, but like behind the scenes when you weren't being that class clown, did you feel sad or sorry or any negative emotions to yourself? Or did you shield yourself by telling yourself that you're that class clown? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I never wore the class clown as a proud label. I felt like it was a scapegoat for my insecurities. Like growing up, I would like act out, and after I was done and I was crazy, I could just hear kids like mumble under their breath, like, "Oh, that kid is an idiot." Or, "Wow, that kid is so dumb." And like that's what I felt growing up. I'm dumb. I'm not good enough. I was never the kid to ever raise my hand in class because I was afraid of putting myself out there and that I would not know the answer and I would make a mistake and then I would no longer be perfect. I remember one time I was going to be brave. It was third grade. I raised my hand in class because I had a question that I was thinking about for a long time. So I raised my hand. My teacher called on me and you could just feel the pressure. Like the kids are looking at me like, Josh is raising his hand. Oh my gosh. What's he going to ask? I asked my question and the kids laughed at me raucously. They just destroyed me. And I decided at that moment that I was stupid and that I'm never raising my hand ever again.
Wow.
And I still to this day won't chime in and won't participate. I'll just sit there quietly unless I really need to. But other than that, you're not going to get much participation out of me.
That's a true story?
Yeah. 100%.
Whoa, interesting. I wouldn't have thought that from you. That's really interesting to hear about. Just out of curiosity, do you remember what that question was?
Yes, I do actually.
What was the
I
question?
mean, it's a dumb question, but the question was, and you're gonna laugh, it's because it is kind of silly, but it was, is the Earth perfectly round? Like, is it a perfect sphere?
Are you kidding? Are you kidding? You know how many adults would not understand, like, be like, huh, shoot, now I feel stupid for not knowing that answer.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, right? Because like sometimes you see maps that are kind of like oval, and I was like looking at an oval map, and I was like, is the Earth like perfectly round, or is it not? Because we always draw it that way, and we always think about it that way, and so, and obviously that was like open to ridicule because it's like a third grade. These kids are like crazy, and sometimes they can be really mean, and they're like, Josh doesn't think the Earth is round, which you can just accept it for what it is, or you can like go deeper and find out if it really is round, you know? So
Yeah.
kind of a good question. Definitely I can see why I was made fun of for it.
I don't know about you, but I took that as a very philosophical question about like the mountains and the ridges, and is it truly a sphere? So that's a deep question.
We don't know, right?
Yeah.
But at the time, it was just a question that I got laughed at for. So I was like, all right,
Mm.
I'm done.
And now we got philosopher Josh on. We got philosopher Josh on today.
Philosopher Josh died in third grade.
Alrighty, so you were the labeled as a class clown growing up, and it was a label that you did not necessarily like, and but you kept doing it to, in a way, be accepted by other people. Was there a certain moment in your life where you felt like that was enough and you shifted, or was there a gradual shift that got you out of that?
There was a very specific moment that was the turning moment in my life. I'll never forget it. I was in ninth grade, and my job, again, the way that I cope with my self-esteem issues was to be the class clown. So I would just say hi to everyone in the hall. I would slap their hands. I would keep the conversation very surface, and I wouldn't let people ever know the real Josh. That just would never happen.
Mm.
And so that was just me. And I felt zero value in it. I felt like I was just a kid that tried to make people happy and failed miserably because I had nothing to add to the world. Well, one day I'm sitting there with my friends. We're just kind of hanging out. And there's a teacher, Brother Andrews, that I'll never forget. He really, I really looked up to him. And one day he came up to me. He says, I need to see you in my office right now. That in the Josh Drean world is a terror moment, because I had never been approached by adults saying, come to my office for a good thing. I was in the principal's office all throughout elementary school. Middle school, I was suspended several times. I had detention several times. And so anytime an adult approaches me and says, come to my office, I'm done for.
Mm.
So I'm like nervous. I'm walking to his office. He's got this kind of look on his face. And I'm like, what did I do? What did I do? Class clown Josh is in trouble again. He opens up his desk, pulls out a Snickers bar, hands it to me. And he says, Josh, you are a natural leader. I can see it in you. And I just want to say, keep up the good work. And he gave me the candy bar. And I left in awe and shock, because it was the first time in my life that I thought, wow, I have something valuable to add to this world.
Mm.
And I don't know what it meant. I don't know what the leadership thing that he saw in me, but it finally gave me like a chance to say, no, there is something deep inside of me that is good, that is worthy of friendship and worthy of being here. I never thought I belonged anywhere, but now I felt like I belonged for the first time. And so I just started changing my attitude. I was like, stop telling yourself that you can't get good grades, because you can. And I was like, oh, I never thought of it that way. So I started like applying myself in school, and my grades went up. Or I was like, stop telling yourself that you can't try out for any sports team, because that's your mentality. And so I tried out for the wrestling team, and I became a wrestler. All throughout junior high and high school, I was a wrestler, and I absolutely loved it. And that was the starting point for me developing self-esteem in Josh, believing in who I am.
Awesome. Wow. So it sounds like someone in your life almost gave you the opportunity for you to see within yourself that things are possible. My question is, what advice would you give to for people who are struggling with self-esteem and no one else is supporting them? Like no one else is giving them the opportunity to see within themselves that what they're doing is incredible. And is what other people are doing incredible to begin with?
That's a great question. And it's a loaded question with several answers that come to mind. But I do want to say first and foremost, you don't have to be perfect to be liked. A lot of times we think that we have to be good at everything and we can't make mistakes, because if we make mistakes, then we're imperfect. And if we're imperfect, we're not good enough. And if we're not good enough, then we're worthless. And that's where that feeling of self-doubt comes in. You are good enough. You are worthy to be here at your school, in your friends group, on your sports team. So don't try to be perfect. And if you make mistakes, it's okay. Just go with it and be there. So that's my preliminary answer. And then I would say, like, find out who you are. Don't let other people define you. So much we spend so much time being like, oh, they laugh when I am the class clown, so I will be defined as the class clown because people laugh. And I was doing it for others, and I wasn't doing it for me. And that turning point for me was finally like, oh, I want to get good grades for me. It's not the stereotype of class clowns don't get good grades, so don't get good grades. It was a mentality shift towards positivity coming from within. Yeah. And yes, it did take one person to show me that. And I think we all need at least one person to say, you're good enough, you're strong enough, you're beautiful enough, you're smart, you can do it. Yeah. And if that's going to be me today, I'm going to say, you guys, you are good enough. So make it happen and trust in who you are. If it's not me, it's going to be Richard, or it's going to be a teacher that you look up to, your mom or dad, a good friend. Someone out there believes in you. So you should too, don't you think?
That's ideally, yes. And I think the reality for many people is, for one person to accept themselves is often a very, very challenging thing to do. I'm speaking from my own personal experience. And as much as I heard, hey, Richard, what you're doing is amazing, that was completely negated by all the negative words that were going through my mind and being confirmed by other people, such as, I always told myself that I was fat, and my brother and sister would always make fun of me. They always call me Big Pig, Twiggy Piggy, Piggles, like it's messed up. Yeah, like all those things. And even though they were kidding, as a kid, if someone says something that you believe, then it only enhances your belief. And oftentimes that's a negative belief.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you on that, dude. And one thing that I talk about in my presentations all the time is I ask the students a question, and that's, what's your because? And what that means is everyone has a because. Everyone on this earth, I believe, has at least one because, like a passion or a desire, or there's a skill set. There's a destiny baked into every single person. So I ask, what's your because? Why are you here? Because once you understand who you are and why you're here, it's a lot easier to deal with life's challenges. You're made fun of a lot less. Yeah. And so my hope is that kids will find that out. And so even though you're being persecuted and people are calling you fat and giving you a hard time, if you know kind of your foundation of who you are and where you want to go, that gives you purpose and that gives you direction. And even though there's going to be haters and there's still going to be those people who are telling you to be the class clown, at least you can stand on your foundation and say, no, or I'm not going to let it bother me.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to a question I previously asked. For myself personally, people beat me down, and not intentionally. It's just like kids being kids. Everyone's trying to find a place, and people bully so they can feel good about themselves. They can feel better than someone else because they lack self-esteem. I was more on the victim side. And when people said negative things to me, even though I didn't get hardcore bullied, quote unquote, it was still like the little things that people said affect, like I took everything so personally. So again, I'm going to ask the question, what advice would you give to someone who is struggling with that? Like someone who just does not believe in him or herself, who's taking things personally, who's taking every little, hey, you're fat, you're ugly, and taking them as truths.
Dude, that's a good question. I would, one thing that you tripped me off on that you said is kind of like kids are making fun of you because they lack self-worth. Well, first and foremost, every kid at the subconscious level needs two things. They need a sense of significance and they need a sense of belonging. Everybody needs that. And if you're not getting that in a positive way, then you're going to resort to negative means to get those needs met. And that's the genesis of bullying. In most cases, there's a lot of different types.
Yep. I see you.
Hey, are we still on?
Hold on. I'm gonna just to sync the. There we go. Good stuff. Thank you. Yeah. Hold on. While we have this little break, I'm trying to see how we can maximize. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Let's roll with it.
Yeah. So if you're not getting that emotion in a positive way, you're going to resort to negative means. And that's why kids will come down on you and they'll give you a hard time, is because they don't feel like they're worth it. And so they're seeking to tear other people down to get that sliver of significance and belonging. Because if I make fun of you and people laugh, even though I know it's wrong, I'm still getting a little bit of belonging there. Like, hey, people laughed when I called you a name, and that gives me the shadow of those needs met. Yeah. So I would say, I don't have a good answer to your question, unfortunately, but I would say that if you are that person who is being made fun of and you take everything that people say as truth, and I was the same person, and it's really hard because why would they say it if it's not true? I would say, one, find your foundation within yourself and be resilient, live towards that. And two, empathize a little bit with that person and say they're probably making fun of you because there's some need missing in their life, and that it's not so much about you, it's something about them. And when you can shift that away from yourself and be a little bit more objective, you start to think a little bit more clearly. Like, oh yeah, it's just them trying to cope with their own problems. It's not an actual problem within me.
Absolutely. That's powerful. I'm going to give a little quick book reference. I don't know if you read this book before, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And I believe it's the second agreement that he says, don't take anything personally. So the idea is nothing is ever personal. So anytime anyone makes an attack or any negative comments towards you, that is only a self-reflection of what they're going through and not who you are as a person. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, 100%. And I think as speakers, we deal with that all the time too. It's like you get comments on your YouTube or on your Instagram, and it doesn't go well sometimes. And you get like, people can really come down on you, and you just can't let it get to you. I don't even remember who it was, but I still remember this quote of like, you can have 10,000 nice things said about you and one negative thing. And that's the one thing that'll stick with you because it's the one negative. And you just, if you focus so much on the negative things that people are saying about you, you get so wrapped up in it. And then you start to, like, it comes out in your life and you project that negativity. Whereas if you can focus on the positives, then you project positivity. And so that's another gem, is focus on the positives in your life.
I love it. Giving a little shout out to our friend, Jake Valentine, huh?
Jake Valentine.
Good.
Focus on the good. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
I really like Jake.
So I want to hear a little bit more about your speaking and give the audience an opportunity for them to hear a little bit more about what you do today. You could talk about your speaking. You could talk about the other projects you're working on. I'm curious to know, uh, at this point, how many people have you had the opportunity to speak with?
How many schools? How many students?
Students.
I would say I've probably spoken to, I've been speaking for about 5 years now. I've been full-time for 3. And I've probably spoken to upwards of like 250,000 students, I would say, a quarter of a million students
just
in one way
like
or
Jake.
another. So yeah, and it's Jake and we started about the exact same time. So I would say that's about right. But
That's awesome.
my whole thing is like, the reason I became a speaker is because I struggled with these things and I didn't think that I had any worth. Even when I was starting as a speaker, I was like, I have nothing valuable to share with the world. I have no cool stories to share. I'm just a normal kid. But as I went deeper and as I started to look at my life, I realized, wow, like we're all that kid that doesn't think that we have something special going on. You just got to dig a little bit. You got to find your because. And once you find it, everything else starts to fit together. And you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, that actually is a pretty powerful story. And you share it with people, and then people hear it and they're like, dang, I wish I could find my own story. And you help them find it. And slowly it's just this a snowball effect of trying to help other people through your own weaknesses and strengths.
Absolutely. What would you say your because is?
My because is giving others a reason and a way to realize their divine potential. That's something I say every morning to myself. And I can pick it apart real quick for you. I want to give other people a reason and a way to realize their potential. So there is a potential to be had, and we need to find the reason to work for that potential.
Yeah.
When you know the how and the why, the what comes naturally. It just happens because you know who you are, and that's what you should be working on. And I have that little word divine plugged in there because I do believe that we have a divine destiny. Everyone is put on this earth for a reason.
Yeah.
And if we can just understand that and work for it, we'll find it. You will find it. I do believe that those who seek truth will find it. So you just got to look a little bit. You got to ask the right questions. And that's why people like you and me are here to, we're still on our journeys, but we've been on it a little bit longer than these teens. And so we can help point them in the right direction.
Right on. I love what you just said. When you seek your truth, you will find it. Like that's a really powerful statement. To me, that's this idea that if you just be persistent, you're going to get there. And I think that applies with any goals that we have in our lives too. If you don't quit, you can't lose.
Keep on keeping on, everybody. I mean, life is really good. It can be good. And there are a lot of crappy things that happen in our lives, but we can learn to be resilient, jump over those obstacles, and start working towards a better life.
Yeah. Right on. What would you say are your greatest challenges today?
My greatest challenge today is perfecting my because or working on my because. I think I got it. The nice part is I already kind of identified what that is, but I know that I'm not as good at it as I could be.
Yeah.
And so I speak and it is really strong and I really enjoy it. I run a YouTube channel where I do a lot of different things. There's a daily vlog. There's a service-oriented pranks, beatbox tutorials, breakdance tutorials. It's a way to engage my audience beyond the stage.
Yeah.
And I'm going to school right now, part-time at Harvard, studying business management. There's a lot of components that are working right now. I'd say the biggest challenge right now is just trying to fit it all into the time that I'm allotted every single day, and prioritizing. But as long as I can stay focused on what it is I'm trying to accomplish, I think the most important things break to the surface every time.
Right on. So one thing that I see about you is every single time I see your vlogs, that you have like some of the coolest vlogs out there. Anyone, if you have not seen Josh Drean's vlogs, you have to check it out. Living the dream, and check it out. It's really cool. To me, I like it. Like top 2 vlogs for me, Casey Neistat, Josh Drean. That's what we got. So
I think, yeah, I mean, putting me up with Casey Neistat is too much, man. He's the master for sure.
yeah, we'll matter opinion, and that's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it, man.
Thanks, Richard. I appreciate it. I got 1 follower at least. You and Mom. Thanks.
There we go. Maybe I'll get my mom too, and they'll get their friends on too.
There you go. That's just a snowball effect, right? That's what we're working for.
There we go. Let's see. What I know this is like the 3rd time asking this question, and I think I have a feeling this time something different will come up. But what advice would you give for someone who is struggling with building up their self-esteem?
I have a completely different answer for this now, as you're mentioning it again. I used to be a mascot in college. I did mascotting for 3 years. I was Cosmo the Cougar at BYU, Brigham Young University. And it was a great experience. I absolutely loved it. But I understood and learned through mascotting that a mascot only has one job. It's not to do flips and tricks. It's not to go to parades. It's not to chase little kids around, which is fun, but it's not my job. The number one job of a mascot is actually to represent. Because when you put on that suit, it's not so much about you anymore. It's about the bigger picture. It's about what you stand for. And if we can understand that it's not just about me, it's about the bigger picture, we start to realize, wow, like I'm part of a bigger plan. It's not just me individually trying to blindly go through life. It's about me discovering what I represent, what I stand for. And that can be anything. That can be your family, your friends, your sports team. That can be an organization. That can be service. That can be whatever it is that you represent, lock it in. I remember my first job, I was a lifeguard. I became a lifeguard at the age of 15. And the greatest thing in the world for me was to sit up in that chair with my whistle around my neck, with my tube on my lap, and say, I belong here. I'm a part of something bigger than just me. I am like working to save people's lives. And so if you can find something to represent, something beyond just you and your own experiences, you start to find a little bit more purpose. You can deepen that purpose in your own life.
Right on. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Before we hop off this, I feel like there's so much more to talk about, but I think the flow is going so nicely right towards the summary. Before we leave with some parting words, I want to ask you, what is the best way for people to get a hold of you if they're interested in connecting with you?
Yeah, great question. My YouTube is always hot. I'm always posting videos there. So if you want to just go to Josh Drean, Drean, then hit me up on YouTube. You can see me on Facebook. I'm very active there. You can go to my website, joshdrean.com, and leave me a nice little message. You can hit me up on Instagram, Snapchat. You find me everywhere at Josh Drean. So whatever way that you use social media, get on there, reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you.
Right on. Thank you, Josh. One thing I'm going to mention, whether you're hiring people to speak or if you're not, I highly recommend Josh. I mean, if you couldn't tell from this alone, he's such a great individual. And even as a speaker, I'm still referring you for others to, get you on and hire you to book you to speak. Whoever ends up watching this, because, that's how much I believe in you as a person. And thank you so much for all the work that you do. Thank you for really giving from the heart and doing things. For those of you who don't know, Josh does a lot of random acts of kindness. He does little things like buying shoes for homeless people, or just because. And there's no. It's so, in my perspective, like it's so unconditional. You just do it just because, and that's something that I'm very grateful to be around people like you. So thank you.
Bring it in for a virtual hug. Oh, there it is. Thanks so much for having me on the show, man. This is super exciting.
All right. Yeah. And last question, or any parting thoughts that you have for the listeners and viewers here?
Yeah. I was a class clown. I had zero self-esteem. I did things for other people because that's how I found out how to survive. You have a destiny. If I can be so bold as to say that you have a destiny, you have things that you're supposed to be doing in life. And I hate the word supposed to because you're not forced to do anything, but there is a place for you that is wonderful and bright and better than what it is now. You just got to look forward a little bit. So I would say start the journey today. Start doing whatever it takes to find out who you are. What worked for me is I took a piece of paper, I drew a line down the middle, and on one side of the paper I wrote things that I'm good at and things that I like to do, and the other side is things that I'm not good at and things that I don't like to do. And I was just 100% honest with myself for 6 months. And at the end of the 6 months, I looked at this list and just said, you know what, I'm going to find a career that matches what I'm good at and what I like to do. And motivational speaking just fit. It's 2016, almost 2017. You shouldn't be doing stuff that you hate. So do a little bit of work, find what you love to do, and freaking do it. Just do it.
Thank you, man. Powerful final thoughts. Again, everyone, that's Josh Drean. Josh, Dreann as in Nancy. Check him out on YouTube, on Facebook. And for more info about him, he has like one of the coolest websites that really give a nice little picture of what he does at Josh Drean with the N at the end.com. It's just joshdrean.com, not Josh Drean, the N at the end.com, because that'd be too long. All right, man. Thank you so much. I love you, brother. And
you too, man.
We'll talk soon. Take care, everyone.
Laters.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Infinite Mastery Podcast. For more help on how you build your self-esteem and more inspiration, check out infinitemastery.org, and be sure to subscribe to our email list because we shoot out emails every single Monday, and you're going to get a lot of great advice there. In addition, we have a private Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/infinite mastery, where you can discover more and connect with like-minded peers to build up your self-esteem and start owning the life that you desire. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next week.